Welcome to the 15th episode of our podcast. Today I'm joined by Ian from the USA. He has lived here for over 25 years. He's a voice actor, he built his own mini house, he appreciates good food and little details about Czech landscape and its villages. This is Expat Episodes, where new stories begin. I'm Martin, your host, and I'll be guiding you through the stories of expats in the Czech Republic. Hi Ian, thank you
Hello.
so much for taking the time to join me. How are you?
Very well. Very happy to be here.
Cool. I'm really glad to hear that. So, could you please introduce yourself?
So, my name is Ian Transu. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia, in the US, many years ago, but I've been living in Europe for about 25 years now. Started in Scotland for 3 years, then here for a short time, then up to Poland for about 11 years, then back down here for the past 13, 14, 15 years. So, this is where I call home.
I see. So, why did you decide to leave America?
Uh, at the time I was there, it was, I'd already had kind of a stable job, typical life. And as a friend once said at that point, oh, you're 25 going on 50. So I was like, wow, yes, there's not really anything like I got everything kind of typical American lifestyle. So I was just bored already. So it was really like, plan to take a little break and just never ended up going back. I haven't even been back to the US in 15 years, the last time I visited. So, yeah.
So, you were basically living your American dream and you wanted to leave your comfort zone.
I don't know if I would call it my American dream. It was a typical 9 to 5 job in IT and just had the house, the car, and everything, keeping up with the Joneses, as we say. But yeah, I was bored.
You had a career in IT. How has that progressed or changed over time when you came to Scotland and then to Czech Republic?
Well, the original idea in Scotland, I settled, or I tried to settle a bit in Glasgow. And I even went out, had a job lined up. They were working on the visa for me. At that time, IT was still early days of doing video conferencing, so that's what we were doing. And I had to go out and about and travel the countryside for 4 weeks while they were getting everything ready. So I started staying in hostels, started traveling and backpacking, and just really loved the life. Or 4 weeks later, I called up and they said, oh, it's going to take a little bit to finish the process. And I just went, you know what? I think I'm happier now scrubbing toilets at a hostel than I will be sitting in an office again. So I gave up. And that's when it started. I just started living like that, in a backpack and traveling around and working in hostels. And that's pretty much how I got here to Czech Republic in the first place. So just coming and working in hostels and doing that in Prague and started out.
And what do you do? What do you do now? Aren't you a voice actor?
Yes, my main profession is a voiceover artist, a voice actor, supplementing a lot with doing proofreading, correcting text and stuff like that. I used to do a bit of translation from Polish into English when my level of Polish was a little higher, but then I came down here and now I'm just very confused on what language I speak. So, but yes, now voice acting with all that it entails. So.
So when did you realize that you wanted to be a voice actor? Was it the compliments from people or?
A bit. In as far back as in high school and my short term in university, I was doing radio.
Okay.
Nothing major, small, tiny little town stations. And I got out of that. Then I was in teaching, as you do when you first come over abroad. And it pretty much started out, another friend in the teaching business, they were doing the old books on CD. And like, oh, can you come in? We're going to do all the books and we need to do some acting parts. So we went to this professional studio and none of us being professional at this at all, me even at that time having the most experience, everybody's like, hi, John, how are you? Very good, Sarah. And I was just getting so bored. So it's just like, "Hi, John, how are you?" It's like, "Oh, it's just great." Started doing accents, or from being from Atlanta, Georgia. "All right, how you doing, Paul?" or whatever it is. So then the studio just like, "Oh, you can do voices out," and they liked my voice, so they kept calling me back to do adverts, overdubs, whatever, and it just started from there. So I got more and more work through that, and then decided I didn't want to go to
Mhm.
Krakow at that time every day, traveling half an hour to an hour to get to a studio to record one sentence and go back. So I started at my own studio at home, and that's what I've been doing since.
Mhm. So what does it entail to start your own studio? Because like when I looked at your website, because I did my homework, I seen like all of these like Mackeys and all of these convoluted numbers and
Well, a
so
lot of that's pretty much just for show these days, really.
okay.
I mean, it's gotten so easy these days. I mean, this little microphone here, the camera's here. You can more or less do a lot of it now. I can take what I have on the road now. I can do what I've got with compared to when I started.
Mhm.
You can do it with an iPad and a really good microphone. The biggest thing you have to have, of course, is the very quiet room. So the echo is the killer of doing any kind of voiceover.
Mhm.
So there have been many times where I've been, in a hotel room or a friend's place and covered up in a duvet with a microphone underneath, just trying to keep the sound dead and reading text under a bed sheet. So, yeah.
Huh?
But the other stuff is really just more for, I do a lot of
Mhm.
work by proxy through studios. So they want high quality, so I don't have to go in and bother them and take up their time. So like, oh, and if they know I've got the equipment
Mhm.
and the good quiet space, then yeah, they're like, all right, yeah, you do it at home. You don't need to come in.
Do you use any softwares or you rely on the hardware that we just spoke about and the studio and the room being quiet and all?
I do use hardware for many
Mhm.
years. I mean, I started out using a program called Cubase.
Mhm.
Then I went over for many years to Pro Tools till I got so sick of the subscription
Yeah.
type stuff, and as well as a voiceover person. Even though I do enjoy or used to enjoy making music as well and working with some bands, I don't do it as much anymore. So I don't need all these filler things. So I went over and I'm a proud proponent of Reaper. So one of the
Mhm.
greatest, and yeah, I pay for it, just so everyone knows. So yeah, pretty much that, and a few extra plugins here and there to just clean up and make my life a little bit easier. But otherwise, that and a good Rode microphone, and the world is beauty.
What about your most memorable role? Which role did you enjoy playing the most?
I would have to say one recently from a, a company out of here, from Ostrava. Um, there is a video game company here called Perun
Oh
Entertainment.
yeah, of course.
Oh, you know them. Good,
Yeah,
good,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
And I'm good friends with a few of them. And just in January, I just did a big part narrator for their upcoming video game.
Mhm.
So it was great to go in and just finally be able to act again and do voices and do things like that. So yeah, I'm excited about that one, but that's about all I can talk about yet.
Oh wow, so you cannot even disclose the game name or?
No, I can disclose that. I can disclose that.
Okay.
Kromlech.
Oh, okay, I
So
see.
that's something new they're working on. So yeah, hopefully be released in the next 2 months,
Mhm.
unless video games always a delay.
Yeah.
But doing things like that, and I enjoy doing things
Mhm.
where I get to actually act out a role instead of I do so many things like press one for English, or uh, I've just recently finished a few things for a Chateau in Cromagige.
Mhm.
So, a lot of audio guides, stuff like that. So, which is nice and wonderful, and you get to learn a lot of history doing
Mhm.
these things. But, you know, you
Yeah.
also have to pronounce a lot of Latin names and Italian, and yeah.
And nothing beats a good, like role where you can really, you know, feel the character and just be in the moment and just have fun with it
Exactly.
basically, like you did with the accents, because I think that's really cool. Do you do any other accents?
I do. I guess it all depends on what's needed. I mean, I love doing a really braw Scottish accent, like after living there. Even though my Scottish friend has a kid who just looks at me every time going, "You don't speak Scottish." He gives me crap for, you know. Um, the high society British accent, doing things like that. That BBC voice and, whatnot. Good Southern, any kind of, or just change. I love doing little voices. It all depends. I've had an older one where I, got to play a little cartoon character. So that was kind of fun too, where you just get put on little voices, change everything. So yeah, it just depends. Yeah.
So this was your career as a voice actor. So let's maybe turn back to you leaving Scotland and coming to Czech Republic, namely Ostrava, or this region. What prompted this another change of your surroundings and what you did?
Well, I got into Czech Republic, as I said, just traveling. And then I was in Prague working the last few weeks of summer at a hostel before it was closing down. And we were, just making beds and promoting the hostel way back when. And one of the girls working there, Australian, comes running in one day going, "Oh, I just got a job teaching English." I'm like, "You can do that?" I had no clue at that time. I had been in this country for 2 weeks. And so I went into the same office that she went to, and they were like, going, "Oh, so what did you study?" I'm like, "I studied English composition, worked on radio." Like, "Perfect. Like, you need qualification?" No, good enough. Good. Early 2000s, or late 90s at this point, sorry. And like, "Do you want to work in Prague?" Like, "No, I want to get away from big city. I love the culture, so I wanted to see the culture, not just the crowds around Prague."
Yeah.
So like, okay, how about business English near Kutná Hora? Like, cool place, but business I don't know so much about. It's like, okay, how about teaching kids in Uherské Hradiště? I'm like, sure. Couldn't even pronounce the town name at that point in time. So I was being put out there, started doing that, lived there, and whilst living there is when I started just traveling around. So came up to Olomouc, met some friends there. Ostrava, came out to Trutnov, all around the country, just doing little trips and just really loving the place. But somehow after that, I got tied up in Krakow for many years, but then I'd always kept in contact, this area in Olomouc especially. Had friends that opened a hostel there. And about 2012, moved from Krakow down to Olomouc, and then kept in this area, opened up a hostel down there, or took over a hostel down there, and just kept up in the area. And then a few years ago, moved out to a small village called Ruda,
Okay.
near Rymažov, and so just literally across the border into Moravskoslezský kraj. I had that, and knew people here in Ostrava, Třinec, Český Češin. So just been up in this area, and then basically I've settled down here because I could never fully get Czech language and Polish. So speaking the po naszemu, it's just perfect. I can mess up in both languages, and the region understands me. So,
Yeah, that's true. So do you speak Czech, or have you learned Czech during your stay here?
Yes, I would say I get by. I'm definitely not fluent. I can speak better than I can read or write. I'm always trying. But for me, I'm not great on the book learning side of things. Even though I could teach English and recite the grammar of that, learning it's a completely different thing. So for me, the best ways I've learned have been in these small villages or places like Trinets or Ruda, when you're surrounded by locals and you just have to speak. So, and doing a lot of construction on my old chalupa to the place I have now, when you're talking to builders and contractors or this, that, or the other, you learn some pretty colorful language
Yeah, I can imagine.
and a lot of terminology. And, a few things definitely Ostrava style, which fits very well into some Polish ideas too.
How do people perceive you when they learn that you're a foreigner? Because you must be really exotic to them, right? Especially in the village.
In the village, yeah. In places like Olomouc, no one cares anymore. There's enough.
definitely.
But in the village, you do get that. You kind of walk up to my local pub in nearby Trinets, and they just kind of hear the accent is just off. And like, the bar goes quiet and everybody just turns around like,
Who is this?
and then the waitress is just very much like, can I help you? And so, yeah, I do like that. I seem to get along very well with little old shop ladies. They seem to really enjoy me a lot. So.
You mentioned that you dealt with builders and that their language was pretty colorful, but yeah, I can imagine that. But what I'm more curious about is your living situation.
Well, at this present moment, I have about 90% completed
Okay.
my own tiny house. So, yeah, I live in a shoebox in a field, and that's perfect for me. I had no experience on what I did with this. A little bit more on different styles when I ran the hostel in Olomouc, always doing repairs on the 5 flats we were managing there. But that was nothing compared to when I had a chalupa, and learning how to renovate that on the land it was on and everything. But even that was a completely different thing when you're working with brick and mortar and stone, and then you go over to doing, well, that I'm fixing a structure. This one I'm from ground up every step of the way, except for making the steel frame. Yeah, it was just a really fascinating process that one I highly recommend to anybody, and it's way easier than I ever thought.
Really?
That doesn't mean it's easy, but it's far easier than I ever really imagined, and I love it. I want to do more. I want to add on to mine. I want to help others
Okay.
build theirs.
How long has it taken you to finish the building or the structure?
The longest time was trying to get the frame.
Okay.
Because we had to source it out to somebody. I mean, I looked all over and around to find something that was pre-built or reused or something. Took forever. And I thought, oh, I'm in Trinets. There's the Železarna right here. Somebody knows how to do it. And nobody there, at least not that I can find. So if anybody out there knows somebody. So I found somebody eventually in Nowe Miesto and had to have it custom made, shipped here to my specifications, delivered over on the back of a flatbed thing. So that took the longest, getting that sorted. Not only price, but how to do it, how to make this movable later, because the land I'm on actually is not my own. I'm on a friend's piece of land. I'm looking for my own, but I've kind of got an extended period. It's like, stay there as long as you need. But then once I got the frame in, and then we did a few days to set up the foundation and then get the bottom insulation in. It took less than 4 days to get the walls up.
Okay.
Wrapped around to a point where I could have actually stayed in it at nights. And through the month of August, yeah, it was pretty much from the beginning of August to the end, I was able to have a frame to being able to live in it very basically.
What about the utilities like electricity and water and all?
This is the part where I'm lucky to have where my friend's property is. It isn't built upon. He built his own tiny house there, and I helped him with it 2 years ago, helped him with some of the roofing. So he was my inspiration among many other things, as well as kind of my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So he helped me get the idea, but I designed out and we changed stuff from his learning experience building his. So he had the land and the space and electricity already pumped in and a water line. So we were able to just split off of that for now.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, I'm running off of his, patched into his cables and water line. So yeah, that works good. But I'm looking to get eventually substitute with some solar during the summer months, because impossible during winter. Coming off of a well or rainwater collection. And yeah, just getting my own little space, a little bit more secluded.
Like being off the grid and self-sustained, right?
Somewhat. I mean, it's near impossible to
Yeah.
do that. And I'm also, as much as I love the idea of self-sustaining, I'm not that much of a live in the woods hippie, you know. I like my, I love my internet and being able to heat up water when I want to. So
Yeah, same for me. But you know what? I think it's really cool, right? Because you can move the house whenever, right?
yeah, for the cost.
And so the cost, right? Because this is something that I am, and maybe our viewers also interested about. How much has it set you back to build your own mini house?
Far, far cheaper than expected.
Mm-hmm.
I did quite a few things though that one good thing about designing your own place is you can add in and do whatever you like.
Yeah.
So this was a beautiful thing. So where I could have been cheaper on some things, but I wanted Cat5 or Cat6 Ethernet cables running through the walls. I wanted this done this way. I wanted, Wi-Fi connection everywhere. This and certain things about the kitchen and whatever. So I put a little bit more into these, but I can say under $500,000.
Okay.
But when you Czech crowns, that is. But when you also talk about, you have to remember that, that's time. I'm not finished yet. There's still things that are missing, like I've got a shower curtain instead of the glass door I want, little trim and lichte around things and things like that. So yeah, there's little things still to come, still I need to do. But right now it's fully livable, it's fully heated, survives, it's very well insulated. And it's probably the warmest place I've lived in since the US 25 years ago, so which is great. So
This is really amazing, Waddle, hearing about the fact that you can build your own livable house, and what I'm maybe curious about is the building permits and other things. Was it hard, like dealing with the bureaucracy?
all right, so here is, and maybe this is something your viewers and everything can help me with too.
Okay.
Because as I said, at this present moment, I'm not on my own land. I'm looking, I'm actively looking. But of course, your land registers have got so many things, whether it's Zahrada, Trvalé trasy, all the different classifications. So, and each one has a different rule, and nobody seems to know what's going on anywhere. I've asked tons of people, and one person says this, another says this. So I've heard everything from, oh yes, from what I do know, you don't need a building permit for a tiny house below 55 square meters. So it used to be 25, but they increased the square meterage of it, which is very nice. So you don't need a building permit for it, but where you have on which land does become a thing. If it's Zahrada, no problem, that's your land. But if you're going lasy, forest or field, agricultural land, that's where I'm hearing so many different things. One person is like, oh yes, you can, but you have to move it every 6 months, and that's only 1 meter. So, is that, you've seen a lot of people around Czech Republic that build something anywhere and just deal with the consequences later. But I do wonder if like, okay, you're going to have that neighbor that's going to go, he didn't move it 1 meter this this 6 months and calls the police or whatever. So I'm trying to find out the logistics about that because I'm really looking to find some good forest land or Tvalitrasse or something like that, Ostatní land or whatever, but enough where I can still legally pull in at least electricity. Water I can get somehow. So yeah, I'm still learning these. So it's still in the process learning the bureaucracy of all of it. It's fun and frustrating, but well.
Thank you so much for sharing this, because I think that this can be also very inspiring to our viewers, because they can learn about that there's more to living in Ostrava than just choosing between a flat or a house, right? Because they can build their own tiny house on a plot of land, and it's very affordable, right? Somewhat. The labor, you have to include the labor, yeah.
Yeah.
But what you mentioned during our conversation, and what I would like to circle back to, just very briefly touch upon it, is traveling, because you do travel a lot. You love traveling, it seems. Tell me about your your most favorite place that you've ever visited, and how do you spend your travels? Are you like adventurous? Because I assume so, right?
Probably more so when I was a little younger, but no, I still am. I'm weird on the travel side of things because I don't like just hitting the hot spots and visiting a place. And this is part of the reason why I ended up staying in Czech Republic too, is because once I like something, I really want to dig into the culture. So, I did go to Scotland thinking I was going to stay longer, but I also thought, all right, I'm going to backpack the world. And I didn't leave Scotland for 3 years just because I loved the society up there. And then I finally got out and I went, so I went through Germany, then got into Czech, and then didn't leave Czech and Poland for the next 20 years. But I did get the lovely ability. I had a friend from Canada who worked at and still does, works at like a tour company, leading typically pensioners, retirees around to fairly exotic locations. And I got to work for them and, got them to foot my bill to be able to go to like my first actual tour I was leading was the Trans-Siberian. So I got to, all expenses paid, put on a train, go across the entire Siberia and do that for people. And then I kept getting others and stuff. So, but definitely favorites. Like I just got back from the country of Georgia again. So love that place. Been there many times. That's one of my favorites. And Syria, hands down, one of the most wonderful, amazing places in the world. And sadly, I was there. Last time I visited was like 3 or 4 months before everything went downhill. But it is one of the most beautiful countries and some of the most beautiful people that I've been around in that area. So yeah, I mean, but saying for travel, as I've done those, what I've really liked doing now that I started on, just over a year ago, I spent 9 months in Norway, up above the Arctic Circle for winter. I'm like, I've got to do this. But when I got back, I realized how much I missed the Czech Republic. And I stayed over, as I was getting everything ready for house building, I stayed over in Vrchlabí and had the ability during winter just go out to different places nearly every 2 or 3 days. So now I want to really do a focus on everything around Czech, because everywhere I go, there's something new and interesting. So I love it. I mean, you turn a corner into some small village that no one's ever heard of, and it's amazing. I mean, even something like Třinec, with its huge factory and stuff, has got, I mean, there's a beauty to it. just like you guys have with your stuff here, and you've
definitely.
turned it into Colors of Ostrava and such. Yeah, so there's that, and then you're in the middle of mountains, so just take a mountain path, do a hike. I love hiking. Uh, I love camping. I love doing long distance hikes and such too. So yeah, this next few years I really want to do a focus on because I love shooting little videos and stuff too. Um, doing little YouTube shorts, whatever, and just doing like out of the way places around Czech Republic because everybody knows Prague.
Definitely, yeah.
Some Brno, Český Krumlov.
So is this what made you fall in love with Czech Republic? The fact that there's always something new to explore and get inspired from?
Yeah, I think for such a small country, you can't spit without hitting a castle. And I love castles. So, and the old architecture, the history of every little thing, the way that every little region's got something different in their character. The way that every little region, makes Slivovica. So, I mean, everybody's got something hidden under a drawer. But I love these little quirks of people, and I love what people. I was recently at a party with a bunch of Czechs, and one of the games was like, oh, what would you call one of the worst places in Czech? And they were going Bruntal, da 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 Bruntal, and I'm like, all right, but I can go into the middle of Bruntal and I can find some beautiful things in the center, the castle part, something over here, there. Yeah, there's some rough edges here and there, but every place has got that, Olomouc has that, Prague has that. So I think
100%.
you can find a little bit of beauty in every place around.
Definitely. And I think that the Moravian Silesian region has been getting, the most hate. We've got Karviná, Havířov, and all of those places. But, I am originally from Karviná. I've studied in Havířov. And I think that, they don't deserve such a bad reputation, right? Because Karviná is such a beautiful city.
I agree. I mean, I fight with my friend from Český Češin. He's like, Karviná. I'm like, come on. Okay, so maybe Orlova, but
Yeah, maybe Orlova. But I guess we can agree on that.
that's good. Yeah, I think every little place like that has got something. I mean, I truly love Český Češin. I love that border area. I love the distance to the mountains. Again, Třinec has got stuff. And at this present moment, I love food a lot, and so far I haven't found a better burger anywhere than outside of Třinec.
Okay.
I mean, some damn good ones, but
Do you know the place, or what's the place name?
yeah. Well, there's two. There's two.
Okay.
So a big shout out to Echo Burger.
Echo Burger.
Yeah, they're down near the center. Well, everything's close to the center. And Pochutnese Bistro. They do really good stuff. But they're not the only ones. There's places There's places in Češin, Český Češin and stuff. So if there's one thing that still brings me back to the last remnant of Americana in me is still trying to find the best burger in the world. So.
See, and this is getting us to the last part of the podcast, and that is our quick pick rubric. So, the first question is, how do you keep your cultural roots alive? So I guess that's through burgers, right? Or
Yeah, I would say probably food. I mean, say two things that probably make me the last remnants of Americana in me is a little bit of food culture. Like when I have friends come over, we'd always do a cook up in the morning, and I do bacon pancakes.
Okay.
So, which half the people go, what? With maple syrup on the bacon. You gotta have this. So some food culture, I would say, still stays with me. Love to cook, which was also important in my tiny house, having a full kitchen. And the fact that a lot of Europeans throughout, I know there's not a lot of expression of emotion, especially between families. Like a lot of families I know, I mean, I've never heard the mother, son, daughter, father ever just sit there and go, love you, Dad, Where Americans, we're overly love you, love you, love you. Now, I don't think we should, throw it around like it's nothing, but I have a kid in Krakow who was turned 18 last year, and he's still one. I mean, probably so different from any other Czech, Pole, British that I know that still you could sit there and at the end of every conversation still love you, Dad, love you, Mom, love you, son, whatever, to the family. So yeah, I think that's probably the closest of the cultural things I still have.
I see. I have never thought about it in this way, but now that you voiced it, right? So now I became aware of it. So that's really.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've added to the therapy section. I don't mean it bad. I'm not saying that, of course, I know you all love each other. It's just the Americans have that horrible sense of over-expressing emotion, but I think to a level and a degree, being able to remind your kid or your family that it's all okay.
And that's important, yeah. So, first thing that comes to your mind, if your time in Moravian Silesian region was a movie or a song, which one would it be?
Well, there's a lot of either. It couldn't be just one song. I mean, every day it's something different. So, yeah, it's either going to be "Oops, I Did It Again," or "Don't Give Up" by Peter Gabriel. But every time I step back into the country, if I've been away, one of my first experiences in Uheské Hradiště was being taken out to see Jízda, one of my favorite films. So that soundtrack by Buti, so anything from that, that just goes into mind, like Mám jedno dlouho, Renku dlouho. So all the songs off of that. So anything from like Buti kind of always brings back that. And at that time also as the Lucia album with the Snow song was very popular. So yeah, those little things, they kind of,
I see. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, because you are more patriotic than I am, from what you're telling me.
Well, I don't really have much to be patriotic for on my side at this present moment, so but I try to stay out of it.
So what makes you want to call this region your home?
It's a mixture of the mountains right by. I mean, no matter what you think of Ostrava, if you're not from here or living around it, I know that every other place, Olomouc has got, it's like, oh, Ostrava, things like this. Same as Poland has to it towards Katowice. But, get out on one of the hills here and look over at the mountains. 20, 25 minutes away, you're right there, and you're so close to everything, and it's a beautiful region. I like the people. There's a rough warmth to it that I think's missing in something like Olomouc, where people are transient. So, you find the locals kind of hold back on getting to know you because they think, oh, they're a university student. In 4 years, they're gone.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get close. But here, as you said, it's like they look at you like, what are you doing here? And they want to get to know you, and then they just
Curious, yeah.
start chatting and start telling you their life story, invite you over for a drink, and I like that. And there's a roughness to it in that they'll, this area, they'll tell you what they think. But usually it's kind-hearted and, they just, you live a rough life, you lead a rough life, but you hold your friends close. So I love that.
So what is your special hidden gem here, would you say?
Honestly, I'm still exploring, even though quite a few years ago I lived in Szczecin, Polish Szczecin on the border for a year and a half, and was in this area and knew it. I didn't travel around it that much, which was stupid. I don't know why. It was just a time, I guess. So, now I'm only just really getting out. I've been spending all the time working on the house, so that's been the main focus. But now that it's calmer, I've been hitting out into the mountains more recently, going up to Lisohora. So yeah, finding these little places. I'm still exploring, so there's not a favorite yet.
Sounds good.
So, but I'm always interested to hear about more.
So the last question we normally ask about tips for a trip to, in your case, Atlanta, right? So you can give me maybe tips for a trip to Atlanta, or you can give me tips for a trip in like Scotland or Poland or whatever comes to your mind.
I could do more than that. Again, it's been 15 years since I've even been to Atlanta, so.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Scotland. Heading up into the Highlands, of course. Just about 3-4 years ago, a Czech friend of mine and I, we did a long distance hike up the Outer Hebrides. So a few hundred kilometers, all on foot. And those islands were just great. And didn't take too bad to get out there. It was beautiful. The people were wonderful. The food was superb. And the scenery was awesome, if not just a little too wet sometimes, but you deal with it. So yeah, get up north, get up to the islands, and it's stunning scenery. And again, like Czech, a small package, but just so beautiful everywhere around it. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Ian, thank you so much for joining me today, for your time and your experience and sharing your adventures and your journey with us. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I will see you guys in the next episode. So bye and take care. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Ostrava Expat Center.